Okay, Dave Silverman, I read very little about your biography, and atheist.org.
Atheists.org, right?
Atheist with plural s.org.
Yeah.
The audience, if you are interested about the organization, you can go there. It is American Atheist Organization. You are the new president.
I am.
And you are a happy atheist. I have seen very grumpy, sad atheists. It is nice to see a happy with sense of humor. Right.
By and large, the majority of us are the happy atheists. The stereotype is the grumpy atheists, and to be sure, we have our grumpy atheists.
Yes.
And we certainly have our grumpy atheists in our organization. But by and large, the vast majority of the atheists that I've met are happy, well-adjusted people with a good sense of humor.
Beautiful. Religious people claim that they save humanity. Anyone who accepts their version, their story about God, that they will attain eternal salvation, they will end up in heaven. And those who do not subscribe to their belief system and perhaps not support with money and stuff, they will end up in hell.
Right.
This is their carrot and stick. What you have, carrot and stick?
We don't have a carrot and a stick. We actually do not have anything except honesty. The fact is that religion was created to make it easier to deal with the fact that we're going to die. It was created to make it easier to understand our own mortality. It basically takes away our belief in death. If you think about it, Muslims, Jews, Christians, whatever their religion is, the religious people don't believe in death. They believe in a physical death, but spiritually, they believe they're immortal. They are never going to die. That's a fundamental commonality between all religions. And that's because that's the purpose of religion, to give that carrot, to give that stick. Atheism is the absence of religion. We're going to die. We're going to die just like every other living thing in the universe. Whether you like that or not, it's true. I don't like it. And I want to make it very clear, I don't like it. I want to live forever. I want my daughter to live forever. I want my mom and my wife to live forever. And I want you to live forever. But it's not going to happen. I want lots of things that aren't going to happen.
Okay, you think that because people want to live forever, they are more prone, vulnerable to the idea of God, and it is introduced by people either in good intention to provide them with a rehabilitation, with something that will keep them happier, correct? Like opium.
Right.
Or to maybe control them, another kind of cynical way of looking at it, to control the masses.
Yes.
Like we had land and the white men had the Bible in their hand. Kenyatta says, when they came to our country and they said, let's pray. We prayed, and then when we opened our eyes, we found out that they have the land, we have the Bible.
That's right.
Yeah. Now, goodness. First of all, I'm not atheist, and I did an interview before you in Los Angeles with Michael Shermer. I don't know whether you know him.
I know Michael.
Yeah, he's the
good man, very smart.
Yeah, I like him, and I have been following Skeptic magazine for a long time. In fact, in my philosophy classes, sometimes I use his and Randy's exposition of hoaxes and religious charlatanry, and I pretty enjoy their work. But again, I said I am a rational monotheist. Have you heard about that?
Well, no. Why don't you tell me about it? I've heard the phrase rational monotheist, but
really, you heard? That's beautiful.
I've heard the phrase, but I've heard a lot of phrases.
I need to turn off my phone, and this is a big mistake I made. Okay. Now you should turn off.
I already have it on silent.
Now, Michael Shermer
did that.
Good. Now, Michael Shermer, we had two interviews with him, two sections. One section, my friend sat down, asked him direct questions, and he answered pretty well. There were no follow-up or cross-examination, and he did very well. But when I entered the scene, I asked some question. I expected him not to answer all of them. Obviously, you're not claiming to be God, correct?
Correct.
Omniscient, knowing everything.
Correct.
Or the Father in charge that has answered for all the questions.
Right.
Okay.
I would like to be God.
Okay. Well, and when I cross-examined Michael, and interestingly, the last issue of the Skeptic, which just 2-3 hours before the interview, we learned it was about Islam and Quran.
Mm-hmm.
And he's the chief editor of the Skeptic magazine, and I thought it's very good also timing, because we could ask questions about the Quran too, as well as about Christianity stuff. But when we a little bit discussed, he says, I have not read the Quran at all. I have no idea about it. That's okay, I said. But what I am saying really doesn't require you to read the Quran, because I will give you some examples. If they are true, put an if.
Mm-hmm.
If they are true, what do you think? What is your interpretation? You can say Muhammad was a very smart man, or he knew the sciences, or he was very great mathematician and also fiction writer, whatever. But you could make some judgment, or you could say, I don't know. I will make judgment later, but at least try to learn about that.
Okay.
And his reaction was something I didn't expect. He a little bit engaged with some discussion. At the end, when I provided some examples, he felt that he was not in comfort zone. And then he says, I look like an idiot. I don't want this section to be aired. And we promised that we will not air that section. But he gave permission for the first section because they were easy balls. It was catching easily. Okay. Now, my first question for you would be, not first question, the second question. Why you prefer to become atheist rather than agnostic or deist or theist? Christian, many flavors of Christianity, right. Correct? Mm-hmm. And sub-flavors.
Right.
And so-called Islam, and which means peacemaking, but we see really not association. So yeah. Well, I will talk about this figure. I saw it here.
Yes.
What is this?
I have a story about that.
Oh, okay.
I have a story
we'll talk about it. There is a bomb on the head of this guy.
Yep.
This is supposedly Muhammad.
Yes.
Okay. We'll talk about this one too.
I'll talk about.
Okay.
I'll be happy to talk
and
about
then,
that.
Just tell us about your story, if you can, summarize in 2 minutes.
Sure. 2 minutes is a tough one, and you asked actually two questions.
Okay, great.
You asked why atheist versus agnostic or secular humanist, and then you mentioned Judaism, Christianity, Islam. Mm-hmm. Judaism, Christianity, Islam are religions. Okay, you don't choose not to believe in the religion. You look at them and you think about it and you make a decision. You can't choose to be a Christian any more than you can choose to be an atheist. Any more than you can choose to believe that the earth is round. You believe what you believe, you think what you think, based on all of the surroundings and all the pieces of evidence that you bring in through your life. So I'm an atheist because I've looked at religion, not so much the Western religions and not so much Islam. I've looked at Judaism and Christianity and to a lesser degree Islam, and I had decided that it's all crap and that you don't have to study all the religions in order to know that religion is crap.
You made induction.
Yes.
Based on some experiences. You say they have similar common denominators.
Yeah, many similar common denominators. Okay. This is why, you know, I don't know very much about Shintoism. I also don't know very much about Islam. I don't know very much about Mooniism or Scientology. But that doesn't mean I have to study them in order to say that they're crap. The other part of your question, why atheism versus agnosticism? They're the same thing. Okay, atheism and agnosticism are really the same thing.
They're not. Atheism is stronger conviction regarding statement that there is no God.
Not really.
Okay, go ahead.
Not really. Atheism is the absence of a belief in a God. It's the absence of a religion. Now, you can be absent of a belief in God and not know everything. Mm-hmm. Okay? Nobody in this universe knows everything. Mm-hmm. I certainly don't know everything. So does that make me an agnostic? Yes. But it also, because I'm absent of any belief, because I have no belief in a God, I'm an atheist. So there, a lot of people believe that there's they believe a misnomer. They believe that agnosticism is a stepping stone, a matter of an extreme, and atheism is the extreme. And agnosticism is kind of a, well, I'm not sure. Well, if you're not sure, you're still an atheist. You just don't have a belief in a God. You're a different kind of atheist. There are many different kinds of atheists. Agnostics, the people who call themselves agnostics, are a type of atheists. Then there's the type of atheist that I think I am, which I call a conclusionary atheist, which means you've looked at the evidence, you've read some books, and you've come to the decision that God is fiction. This still does not mean you know everything. I have come to the conclusion that Santa Claus is also fiction. When Santa Claus lands on my roof, I will change my opinion. Okay? I don't claim to have gone to the North Pole. I don't claim to have studied the possibility of flying reindeer. But I think it's fiction. I'm pretty darn sure of it. When evidence comes into play that shows me differently, I'll consider it.
Now, I have a lot of commonality with you guys because I am thinking being, and I'm a critical thinker, or I try to be a critical thinker.
Good.
And in the beginning when we chat, I said one of the verses that I love in the Bible, though I think there are a lot of verses I have big problem with that, but this verse says, accept the truth so that truth will set you free.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that in that one we'll have the same intention. But what I found that people with vested interest, when they have vested interest, they have problem with accepting truth. Once I had in my life, when I was a best-selling author in Turkey, when I found out that the Sunni religion I was promoting in my books, and in a very young age, and ended up in prison because of that, did not make sense. I was for theocratic regime. I wanted to make revolution in Turkey like Iran, just after Iranian revolution.
Wow.
I was a leading youth leader, and now my former friends right now ruling the country, Tayyip Erdogan and Davutoğlu, these are my former friends from school and from the organization. But I became radioactive. I had to escape here. I was considered apostate, and my father rejected. And therefore, we have commonality. Mm-hmm. Commonality is this: you are in minority, mm-hmm. and I am heretic because I express my ideas. It doesn't mean I am right because I am against the crowd. Sometimes people against crowd, they could be wrong too.
Absolutely.
But at least I find myself, there is in me search for truth. And I see many atheists in that regard more honest than many religious people. Some religious, I think most of the people who are in religion, they are just joining a bandwagon.
That's
Faith is euphemism to joining the crowdest or the loudest or the most beneficial bandwagon.
Richest.
Exactly.
Yes.
Could be many. There are social reasons and a lot of reasons, psychological reasons. People join a crowd. Therefore, majority of people born in the United States, they become Christian. In India, Hindu. In Saudi Arabia, Muslim. What geography has to do with the truth and different truths?
Right.
Yeah. There is a problem there. I agree with you. And also, I empathize with atheists. Mm-hmm. Turkish atheists, for example, I participated discussion with them. In their forums, they were very happy as an author who translated the Quran into 2 languages, to Turkish and English. I have English translation of the Quran, a reformist translation, that was able to take on a debate, rational debate with atheists. And also I invited them for a TV interview on Turkish TV. I had debate with top religious clerics. And in fact, the recent one was the former head of religious affairs, Professor Dr. Süleyman Ateş. Mm-hmm. He escaped from the studio 2-3 times. It was live TV debate. Millions of Turkish people saw how incompetent he was in his arguments. And he could not look in my eye like you do. He was scared. He was intimidated by follow-up questions. Now, and I asked them, I said, you are an oppressed minority in Turkey because as atheists, you cannot really go in public much. They are scared of being harassed or being even hurt. Mm-hmm. And you are here in the United States, you are standing against falsehood, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I think, let me say something, you may like it and may not like it.
Okay, go for it.
You are, as an atheist, closer to God than almost 99% of the religious people. I say 1%, I don't want to make everyone angry with me. Okay? The reason
Define
is,
God.
Let me say, okay. I will. The reason is because you are not fabricating lies about God. When I see all the religions fabricate the silly stories, the most absurd stories about God, and they ask people to believe it on faith, and they are proud of that. And I can't believe these people, if they tell a fraction of that story about their friends, they will question. Kind of, not extraordinary story, a little story.
Yep.
And that little bit kind of counterintuitive or against their experience, they will say, what is your evidence? Show me, witnesses. Even sometimes witnesses will not be enough if it's too extraordinary.
Right.
And therefore the atheists or skeptics maxim that say extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence,
Right.
which I subscribe to that. And therefore, the religious people I see far away from God because they claim that God is schizophrenic. Because the God created the universe, and we see the universe is rational, means through our reason we can understand. Like Einstein said, the most mind-boggling thing is universe intelligible. We can understand. We can study and understand. And there are laws, deterministic laws. When we study, when we question, the more we learn. The more we learn, we create technology, like aeroplane, like light, correct? And computer and many air conditioner. And therefore this God, if there is God, creator of the universe, rewarding us because we ask questions. Scientists basically asking questions about the universe.
Okay.
The more wise and hows, they are rewarded. If it is the same God who sent messengers and books, that God should also promote in churches and mosques, if they are divine places, then questioning should be the modus operandi of learning. Questioning and suspecting and testing, correct? But
Yeah.
they do just the opposite. They say no. The God created the universe, but when you come to our churches, you freeze your thinking capability, you open a hole, a zone, which is called for belief. We can put any Trojan horses, any viruses there, you swallow it without question.
That's right. And when you question it, when somebody questions it, the response is visceral. The response is extreme. After we film this, I'm going to Harrisburg to protest about a mayor who is doing exactly what you're talking about. The mayor of the city of Harrisburg is incompetent, and the city of Harrisburg is about to go into bankruptcy. So she is leading prayer and fasting so that God, who somehow communicates with her through prayer and fasting, will save the city from bankruptcy. And when I go on and I tell people, you know what, she's using religion for her own political gain. It goes into that part of the brain. And they hate it. It doesn't matter that it's obvious. It doesn't matter that it's really plain to see. They don't see it. I'm an atheist. I'm bad. She's a Christian. She's good. I trust her because she's a Christian, even though it's her job to keep the city balanced. The city's not balanced. And she's had plenty of warning and she's had plenty of knowledge to do it, but she hasn't had the ability to bring it to fruition. So these are intelligent people. They're not stupid, but when it comes to religion, they are stupid.
They become children.
Yes.
Children who kind of believe in Santa Claus story. I do agree with you. And it reminds me, you must remember the name of American physicist who said there are good, I'm paraphrasing not exactly, I think in 1999 he made this statement, which I like it, but I think it requires a modification. There are good people and bad people, but in order to turn a good person into bad person, it requires religion.
Christopher Hitchens.
Christopher Hitchens? Okay.
Yes.
He was a physicist?
No, he's a philosopher. He's a writer.
No, I think this was physicist. Maybe he repeated that one. He quoted that one. It was originally by an American physicist. I forgot his name. Doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, but it is. I want to change the word religion with dogmas, because it could be ideological dogmas. It could be even atheism, because we have seen Stalin or Pol Pot. They were atheists, avowed atheists,
Absolutely.
and they killed people too because ideology dogmas. Therefore, not necessarily religion. It could be nationalism also too, and therefore, any unquestioned statements or belief system can cause problem for humanity, for individual. Correct? You agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But I don't put religion and Stalin and Pol Pot in this. I don't put like Hitler and Stalin in the same place. In as much as one used religion and the other used ideology, it's not so much religion that is the problem; it's how it's used.
Okay.
Okay. And you know, the certain people, certain religious leaders, like Hitler, used religion. That doesn't necessarily make religion bad. Stalin used nationalism. That doesn't make nationalism bad. It's how it's used and how well or how poorly it's used and how poorly it's protected.
Okay. Here is my question for you.
Sure.
I see atheists sometimes making this false argument. What question I was asking? I even forgot my question. Gosh. Okay. Okay. Okay, I know.
All right, good to go. Ready?
Okay. Now, I see you very comfortable and beautiful, because some people are not comfortable to discuss these issues. And now I'm coming a little bit harder questions,
Okay.
and I hope that you will not.
Let me give it a shot.
Yeah. Now, it's not hard question. You don't, when we discuss some religious ideas, the concept of God and stuff, I see some atheists make this argument. They say, I see these religious people doing this, therefore there is no God. And there's a problem with that argument. Like, I see some atheists, dirty atheists.
Right.
Atheists make stupid argument for atheism. I have seen some atheists in Turkey. They were saying, well, life comes into existence very easily. You see, you don't have any insects on your head, but suddenly from dirt, lice come about without evolution and stuff. This was like spontaneous life come about.
Lice from
lice,
nothing.
Lice from dirt.
Okay.
And it takes
Not-
about a few days. And therefore this was, and now using it to criticize atheism, obviously is a straw man argument.
Okay, correct.
And I have seen atheists also doing a lot of punching straw man. It's easy to punch Christians, all flavors, and it is easy punch to punch Muslims with capital M, Sunnis, Shiites, and all kind of versions. But rational monotheism, I want to come to that and a little bit discuss about that.
Okay.
The idea of God. Let's first separate God from religions. I agree with you that today's religions, and when you look at them with contradictions in them, with problems in them, cannot belong to the God, the creator of this universe, if there is God. Let's put if, don't worry. And therefore, I'm in agreement. Let's disassociate, and later I will come to the Quran, about mathematical system of the Quran, and I know that you don't have any information about that. That's okay. First impression, like Socrates, I will be questioning you, I will get responses, I will let you lead to some conclusion or hold your judgment, and you will say, okay, this is very interesting, I don't have information about this. Edip, guess what? Let's discuss this issue after I study a little bit, and we have another discussion on this. I would expect that.
Okay.
If you find it meritorious.
Yeah, I can't promise to leave this interview promising to study Islam. Okay. I can't promise that.
I'm not talking about studying Islam. We'll talk about that.
Okay.
Okay, you have already
He has a purpose.
depicting Muhammad and Islam as a terrorist.
He has a purpose.
Yeah. Okay.
Would you like me to talk about it?
We will talk about that later. I don't want to forget this one. This
Okay.
is beautiful because it tells how things are distorted.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Now, let's go here, Big Bang. You think Big Bang, what is your Big Bang? Just in less than a minute. Big Bang, can I tell you whether you agree with that? There was nothing, correct?
Okay.
13.7 billion years ago?
Okay.
You agree with
So
that?
if you're talking about what created matter, okay, where matter came from, I'm not going to tell you that I know.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you what I've read. I've read
Hawkins?
Stephen Hawking's.
Okay.
And I've seen lectures by Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Gold, maybe?
Stephen Gould, Stephen
Yes.
Jay Gould,
Yes.
yes. They know much more than I do.
Okay.
And Stephen Hawking says that yes, it's, I mean, have you read the book, The Grand Design? It's this little thin book.
Mm-hmm.
And you read it, and as you read it, your head starts to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And he talks about how matter can easily come into existence out of nothing. And then as you're reading, he gets to a point where he says, oh, so as you see, something comes from nothing, easily. And then I have to go back and say, whoa, wait a minute, and read that again and again and again. I can't tell you that I understand how matter came into existence. I can tell you that it certainly answers the questions to a point. The alternatives are that God or a God did it. And then that doesn't really answer the question.
Okay. Here it is. I am a philosopher, I said. And I know there is God. I'm not using the word belief because,
Now you're being dogmatic. You don't know there is God.
I will share with you why I know, and I will share my evidences. And Descartes said, I think, therefore I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, I think twice, therefore I don't believe. Okay?
Go for it.
Okay, go for it. Now, Big Bang, the beginning.
Don't draw on my couch.
I will not. I love it. He cares about it.
Don't draw on my couch.
I will pay for it. I will pay. I was not. Okay, I was not going to write. I love it. Now, the universe, one point, singularity they call it, infinitely dense, infinitely small.
Right.
Infinitely dense, infinitely, think about it.
Yeah.
And the whole galaxies, billions of galaxies with billions of stars,
Mm-hmm.
with dark matter and all this incredible amount of mass, which scientists calculate the number of atoms in the universe 10 to the power of 80,
Right.
which is a huge number. And all these in invisible, infinitely small mass, and suddenly, boom, explosion.
Right.
This is the fairest of all tales. Fairy tale. But this is science. We have a lot of evidence for Big Bang, from cosmic background, from shift to the red, and many others.
Oh, and math. I mean, the reason they get from infinitely small and infinitely dense,
Yeah, it is
those are all
theoretical
mathematical functions.
Yeah, because basically, going back, we get an idea about how long ago it started. Therefore, now the size of the universe, we have some idea about it. Therefore, with this expansion rate, and there was some early inflation, and how it would be, basically, the whole mass will be collapsing on itself to singularity.
Right.
Now, the question is how it started. This is not experienced by us. We don't experience matter come out of nothingness or energy coming out of nothingness. Therefore, the claim that, scientific claim that in the beginning came out of nothingness is not testable. It's not even experimented. We have no experience of that. There is one point somehow matter acted differently than today's matter. That's interesting because today's atoms, they don't just poof in and out of nothingness and correct?
No, that's incorrect.
Oh, that's correct. They go out of nothingness and come into the existence.
Yeah, Stephen Hawking says that matter is actually coming into existence at the particle level every day, everywhere, that matter blinks in and out of existence all the time.
Beautiful. And this is, I think, much stronger argument for existence of God. Because the idea that nothingness means zero, there is nothing. Coming out of that something, not only something with qualities, with precise also structure. Here you have the atom. Atom is an incredible structure, much more complex, much more precise than the structure of the skyscraper in New York.
Yes.
And you say this came out of nothingness. Okay. You believe in nothingness as the generator of things, an intelligent being like you, nothingness and randomness created intelligence. I say, this box we don't see it. We are in this room. Suddenly we see in this room, boom, something appears. Okay? But in this room, when we do certain things, we see there's cause and effect relationship. But in this room, something appears. Then we say, it's really different than all the experiences we had. Then maybe someone is putting maybe a hand, invisible hand there, or maybe someone is throwing, but there must be a cause for that.
But
You can ask, what is the cause of God?
Yeah.
Question, exactly. Say back the question. You hurl the problem to another thing. I don't call it God. I know you have allergy towards God because the name of God is so abused by idiots, by fake charlatans. Let's call it X, or the non-matter, but the creator. There is something not matter, because matter is contingent. The matter we see is not acting that way, like in singularity. Therefore, there must be, and there is a beginning of the universe. If there is a beginning, why not go out of the box? How do you know out of the box there is no other thing, call it thing or X, that caused that one? That one may be not like matter, like atom. Why you say,
okay.
What I see difference between, just let me
go ahead.
Finish one statement.
Go ahead, and then I'll
I see difference between me and you. I attribute the creation of the universe and the laws in the universe. That's important. You ignore all the atheists ignore, including Dawkins. The laws in the matter, that it was the beginning, it was with the creation of the matter, or with the appearance, emergence of matter, the laws. And the laws that created all living beings. It was early, in the beginning of the Big Bang, it was determined. Now, I say this is out of this box. There is something, I don't know about it, I call it X, but whatever in the box does not have this quality to be eternal or creating itself. But there must be something out of the box. What you are saying, you are attributing whatever I attribute to God, with the exception of intelligence. You say all the atoms are basically creator of themselves, all the laws they design, and I am an intelligent being, the cause of that. Therefore, all the attributes of God, with the exception of intelligence, you ascribe to what? Atoms. Therefore, you are polytheist.
What?
Polytheist. Polytheist. You believe in many gods.
Okay.
Because matter, whatever I attribute to X, you attribute to atoms. Therefore, in that sense, the difference is, I say these atoms and stuff are not creating themselves. In fact, atom did not exist before 4 minutes of the creation, or starting Big Bang. There were particles, subatomic particles and stuff. Therefore, these are contingent, changing and things. And therefore, you don't know even what is the substance of the atom. Going deep, now we hit the quarks. Initially, we saw atom. And then we went down, we found that in the center there is protons, neutrons, and then quarks, up quarks, down quarks, happy ones, unhappy ones, you know, funny names. 1,800 maybe particles. And there are many theories right now. Our knowledge is so deep, but still we don't know what is in the body.
Just at the beginning. Okay.
I'm sorry, can you just repeat that question again at the end there?
Why do you think you have problem with intelligent creator, rather than you want to ascribe your brain to idiot or random events that somehow created you?
Long question, long answer. Okay, so you're doing it backwards. Okay. What we have is reason to believe that everything is random. What we have is reason to believe that everything obeys the laws of physics. You are taking the laws of physics and giving intelligence to it. And you're giving intelligence to it without reason to do so. In fact, you're giving intelligence to the first cause despite a lack of reason to do so. Now, what I need you to get is that ignorance of fact is not evidence for fiction. Okay? The fact that we don't know is not evidence that there's an intelligence. Okay? What I want you to, I mean, we talked about particles and you talked about physics, and really you're talking about a cosmological argument, you know, where did everything come from? And you're positing the fact that we don't know everything is actually support for an intelligence. There is no support, no matter what kind of math you use, no matter what kind of physics you use, there's no support for an intelligent force that lives outside the universe. That's why I don't do it. There's absolutely no reason to believe it. Now, you talked about matter and energy, matter coming in and out of existence. Apparently that's the case. But existence is a relative term as well, now isn't it? I have a book here. The book has length and width, okay? If we were a two-dimensional being, just two dimensionals, if we had no height, we could be on this plane, and then something from a third dimension could drop onto this plane, and we'd say, whoa, there's something here. Okay. We see a three-dimensional world.
Mm-hmm.
Fourth dimension is time.
Mm-hmm.
Current scientific theory says that there are at least 12 dimensions.
Yeah, even more dimensions.
And they're hierarchical.
Yeah.
Some people say they're hierarchical. Again, above my level of knowledge.
Useful.
But the fact is that matter can possibly traverse these dimensions, and we just can't see it.
Okay,
because we're three-dimensional beings. We're four-dimensional beings.
That means you say there are unknowns, therefore you don't reach the judgment. You don't say there is no out of this matter that something affect this material universe.
But there's no evidence to support an intelligence.
Oh, intelligence. Okay, we're coming to that.
But there's no evidence to
and
support that.
are you intelligent being?
Yeah, I'm an intelligent being.
Okay. You think you are caused by what? By random mutations?
I think I am caused. You're talking about in the big C cause.
Yeah, yeah.
How did we get here? A lot of luck, a lot of random mutations, a lot of coincidences. Yes.
Okay. Please bear with me.
Okay.
The atoms, number of atoms in this universe, visible universe, we know, is about maybe 114. And there is an argument, there is an argument that the maximum number of stable element, the biggest one would be 114. Maybe it is controversial now, but let's say 114. We have 93 natural elements. The other rest, heavier elements, are created in lab. They're short-lived, but still they would have their own characteristics. Now, we see elements, heavier elements, are created through fusion by lighter elements, correct?
Okay.
It goes back to hydrogen.
Mm-hmm.
And stars, most of the stars made of hydrogen, then they, through fusion, they turn
they collapse, they deteriorate,
they turn to
heavy
helium
elements.
and lithium and other heavy elements.
Right.
When they reach to iron, then it is death of star. Iron
Right.
is the threshold. Now, hydrogen, several hydrogen atoms, when they fuse, they create helium.
Mm-hmm.
Therefore, helium must have the characteristics of the hydrogen influencing what kind of characteristics helium will have. If characteristics of hydrogen were a little bit different, helium would be different, correct?
I assume so, yes.
Yeah, it is kind of deterministic.
The amount of protons, neutrons, and electrons are fixed.
And
helium
the
hydrogen.
characteristics, basically the characteristics of helium was determined by the characteristics of hydrogens.
Okay.
Beautiful. Therefore, we call it, in fact, And then helium comes in fusion with other hydrogen or other elements like lithium, and then helium create lithium, and then heavier elements like carbon created. Therefore, all of the information in these elements start with hydrogen. The knowledge in information embedded in all these atoms is embedded in hydrogen, and the elements come together, create molecules, very interesting molecules, and the characteristics of elements determined the molecule, correct?
You're assuming that through the process nothing is lost.
Yeah, well, nothing lost. I say there is information transformation. The previous, the parent of that particular matter is determining what kind of matter this will be. Basically, it's generated from hydrogen.
Yeah, okay, I can get you that.
Okay. Now, therefore, we can say the laws that embedded in hydrogen is the cause of all the diversity we see in the universe, because all the elements we create basically boil down goes to the hydrogen. If hydrogen were a little bit different, maybe we could not create anything.
Correct.
Atom could not be stable or
Correct.
something.
There are many variables in the universe that have to be perfect.
Now, life comes into existence, let's say, is first single cell. We call it life, functionality. Though the difference between living and non-living is not that clear.
Very good.
It is kind of like John of Cusa said, that infinite continuum. It is kind of
correct.
Not much categorical.
Correct. Life is
infinitesimal continuity.
Yeah, life is really a chain reaction, a chemical chain reaction.
But we have certain categorical, maybe we can say this is different than this one, maybe extreme ends of life and non-living, but in the middle, slippery slope, we may not be able to really pinpoint a borderline, correct?
Right. That's correct.
Beautiful. Now, particular number of atoms, particular atoms in particular proportion and in particular order come together creating living cell.
Mm-hmm.
That knowledge, that information must be in the beginning of Big Bang, before these living cells first started and even evolved. Because the laws, matter follows those laws. The laws do not evolve as far as we know. The physical laws are stable here in this universe, correct? Like laws of thermodynamics or
the laws of
gravity.
thermodynamics are stable, but the problem is what do they correspond to? The Newtonian laws are different from the quantum laws. I mean, Newtonian physics and quantum physics are different.
Oh yeah, they're different,
Okay.
but those laws exist.
They're a continuum, and they exist as a continuum. They don't change in our universe, but they're different laws.
Do you agree that we can rely on those laws? They kind of stable?
You can extrapolate,
Beautiful.
yes.
Yeah, those laws generated basically in the 13.7 billion years ago, the first matter happened, that after certain reactions and creation of heavier elements, creating this particular condition, these particular elements, like oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, and carbon, will come together in this particular proportion and in this particular order, will create DNA, like adenine, thymine, cytosine, and which one?
The other one.
Cytosine, I forgot four of them.
One.
Yeah, and then these four bases will come together in particular order, boom, will act civil thing. Will create.
I want to make sure I understand your question. Yeah. Okay, are you saying that at the beginning of the universe it was predetermined that life would be here?
I don't say predetermined. Yeah, I could say that. This the conditions that will create life as an information started at that. Life in such a condition, which deterministically, in fact, universe expanded, and the galaxies, the position of the even stars, it started from the early wrinkles in the universe. Those wrinkles was from the beginning, the heterogeneous nature of the universe. Mm-hmm. Therefore, it was there.
The universe is 99% dead. Okay, 99+% dead. So you have to understand, you're getting this huge picture that we were somehow put here, but we're a very, very small speck in a huge universe that is mostly dead. So when you say that, oh, everything in this universe has to be perfect, that the laws that were created in the Big Bang, I don't like the word created, but the laws that governed the universe at the Big Bang were destined for us. Well, you could say that they were destined for this universe.
Yes, destined for the universe, including this earth, including your intelligence, including we be here deterministically.
If you want to go to that level, then you eliminate free will.
Yeah, I have problem with free will.
Okay.
If I was atheist, I would have problem with free will. But again, let's leave free will argument out of this. So just these things to be here or anything.
Okay.
All these computer programs, all these books, all this information comes from Big Bang.
It is a tiny speck of nothing in this universe.
Doesn't matter. Your brain is tiny speck. The most marvelous things in this universe. You
According to us.
Huh?
According to you.
Yes.
According to us.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean
Isn't
that
the science, at least so far, we haven't found more marvelous than you. At least on this planet Earth, in the solar system, your brain is the most marvelous things. But your brain structure, what created that from the atoms, the laws in the atoms, the characteristics of atoms and molecules, those laws existed before. That means certain combination.
Yes.
When come together, boom, intelligence must
Okay,
emerge.
so you're actually talking about like gravitational constants. You're actually talking about the weight of the atoms. You're actually talking about of the weights and the constants in the universe.
Chemical and physical characteristics.
And like I said, you're going back to where you were before. You don't know, so you're ascribing an intelligence to it. No, I don't accept that.
Well, here it is. You say, I'm saying, I know the evolution, and I have no problem with evolution, by the way. In fact,
I can tell.
We have book here. I would like to suggest you to read this book. This is
Muhammad.
Islamic Theory of Evolution by Dr. Shanawaz. This is, in fact, shows that before Darwin, centuries before, Muslim scholars like Ibn Sina, Avicenna, have you heard about him? Abu Rushd, Ibn Khaldun, philosopher, sociologist, or Ibn Haytham. These philosophers and scientists, they all promoted the idea of evolution. In fact, they started from inanimate objects. And in fact, there is confession of Western philosopher, contemporary of Darwin, that this did not start from Darwin. Muslims, in fact, Darwin in his time was accused to become following barbarian Mohammedans by Christians. Very interesting. But now Muslims ignore these scientists because they follow Christians. They went backward. Mm-hmm. And then here we have, and also Western world, it seems not really honest in conveying the information about the history of discussion on evolution.
I know that happens.
Very interesting. Now, I have no problem with evolution. But evolution, through evolution assembly line, things happened. Let's say a product, this TV came about at the end of the assembly line.
Yes.
And you see, you go, let's say, a big factory.
Yeah.
You and a religious person enter the factory, and you see assembly line, how start from raw material, the molded, the aluminum and other iron and molded, and plastic is molded, and later pieces fabricated and put together with robots and stuff, at the end assembled as a TV or as a car and coming out. Yeah, if you say, well, I know what's happening here. I know what is next is happening. This is an evolutionary stage. This is a complete box. There is nothing outside of this. This is coming into happening. I know how I can explain. Though in the beginning I don't know, that's okay, I don't care. In the beginning how this material coming about, but I can explain every stage of this assembly line. Therefore, there is no any engineers or designers of this. This is happening. I can explain it, how it's happening every stage, how the door is fixed there. Religious person, no, he says, well, this doesn't happen this way. There is no this assembly line. He denies basically the assembly line. He says this cars come out of just blues with parachute. Mm-hmm. I say this. I say this assembly line shows a particular designer of the assembly line. The very assembly line follows certain laws and uses certain material that is following laws. Let's not discuss the ontological existence of matter, how it came about. But the very laws, yeah, that's okay. I
hate the ontological arguments.
Yeah.
Give me a headache.
I'm not really referring to St. Augustine's argument, but anyway, I would say it's the very existence of matter. But the modus operandi of matter, how matter follows the laws, and that is designed. The laws and the thing that this assembly line is designed. I see the evolution the same way. If there was no laws, the evolution would not happen. Let's say, I'll give you an example. Though you will have a beef with this example, you should.
Okay.
Let's assume a big truck. We have marbles, different color, different shapes, and different sizes. Marbles. Mm-hmm. Thousands of marbles. Let's say 1 million of marbles.
Okay.
And then we have big stadium We bring this truck and dump all these marbles on the floor of this stadium.
Okay.
And then they mix with each other. They create different patterns. And then we put back to the truck in fraction of a second, dump it, just thought process, okay?
Uh-huh.
And then for a million years, we dump these marbles, made of silicon or made of glass, okay? But assume that this glass is not interacting with each other, correct? Mm-hmm. Just simple glass, no laws that make them to connect to each other. Do you think these marbles for millions of years, they will come together suddenly in one point, randomness, and they will create just come over each other, start sticking to each other, and then start moving and talking?
No.
No. Why? Because we say these marbles are simple marbles, and there is no kind of chemical interaction, information is not passing to each other, therefore it will not create. If atoms were like marbles, like physical structure of marbles in room temperature, then we wouldn't have life, because life requires interaction, transformation of information. Therefore, what I say, life is immanent. Immanent. Do you know this word?
Yes.
Immanent in the first material, in the first second of universe, because those laws gave birth to hydrogen atom, and later the same law created, the same information created helium and carbon and iron and all other elements. And the laws also governed how molecules come together, create different functions, show certain different qualities.
Okay.
And therefore,
so I think you're a little bit
Okay.
a little bit around here.
Okay.
I think what you're saying is that at the Big Bang, eventual life was almost predetermined, because you have an almost infinite period of time, and you have an almost infinite amount of matter, and you have the correct laws to create life. This would imply life is scattered around the universe.
I think you are not, I'm not able to convey, maybe because English is chronologically my fifth language.
Fifth?
Fifth, yes. Dave, the reason I'm saying to this, life, the creation of, or emergence of first cell, why these particular things, when come together, act this way? We observe it, we say, wow, this life came about, a living cell. Why matter come together, act this way? That was determined in the beginning. Therefore, living cell is not kind of random. It is within the law. If law was a little bit different, life would not happen.
Yeah, but we already discussed that.
Yeah, in the beginning. Therefore, in the beginning, there is all the information that creates this. If you think deterministic, which science is deterministic, unless you go down the center of the atom.
Unless you go quantum.
In quantum. But what governs the universe really, stars and cells and stuff, is deterministic. Therefore, your brain was determined to have, you have as a brain since the beginning. Therefore, intelligence is not through random evolution. It was determined step by step that after 13.7 billion years ago, in one corner, that Earth also was determined since the beginning, first explosion. And then you will come about.
So you're talking about the predictability of physics in the
And
universe.
yes,
You're
all
talking
these,
about that given every variable, given every circumstance, given all the knowledge of all the possibilities, that we could have predicted this conversation 13.7
if you knew
billion years
everything.
ago.
Yes, here it is.
Okay,
This
so there is, yeah, so that goes back to the whole free will thing, that, and I get that, you don't want to discuss
Yeah.
that right now, but I think there's a real set of fundamental flaws in your logic.
Beautiful, I would like to hear.
Okay, so you went to an assembly line, okay, and the assembly line starts at this and ends at this. That's not the case, okay? What happens is the universe is not an assembly line. It's random. It's just a mishmash of
Are you serious? You say random?
Well,
I thought science says deterministic law. Random means what? Is there random really in the universe, do you think?
okay, I can give you that.
Well,
Okay, I can give you that.
Yeah.
I can give you that.
Okay.
I can give you that. So if you want to say, if you want to go to that level, no, maybe there is nothing random,
Okay.
unless you actually get to the quantum level.
Okay.
And when you get to the quantum
We're
level,
not talking about quantum. We are
well,
not
you
inside
have
the
to,
atom.
because you have to have quantum, because quantum is part of the continuation
Okay.
of physics. Okay, it's not just Newtonian. There's quantum physics in there, and that's there.
Okay.
Okay, and we don't know about it. We don't know much about it, but we know it's there, and we know it has an effect.
Okay.
Okay, and we can see its effect. But you're talking about, you mentioned a factory, you know, it starts with the raw materials and ends up with cars. But what if you have a factory that starts with raw materials and ends up with 99% junk?
Beautiful. Yeah.
And then, after a very long time, a car comes out. But it's not just a car that comes out. A car doesn't come out for random reasons.
Let
in
me
the
tell you
universe.
something.
Good to go.
When we say junk, it's not junk. Even SHIT is not junk. It is incredible design structure there. If you study that, you will see there is atoms, the same atoms that you eat or in your body.
I have a fundamental problem with you using the word design.
Yeah.
I have a fundamental problem with you using the word create.
Isn't atom a great construction design?
I have a fundamental problem with
Tell me, what
design
is it?
and construction.
Tell me.
We're talking about physics here.
Yeah.
Okay. We're talking about, you know, the chain reactions that happen at the molecular level, at the atomic level. This is not design. This is how chemicals interact with each other, how gravity works, how the chemicals interact with gravity, and how evolution occurs throughout the universe that you know of.
Okay.
Evolution is predictable, evolution is seeable, and we're talking about chemical reactions, reproducible, visible, supportable chemical reactions that happen totally without an intelligent being, totally without a being.
Oh, you are ignoring the laws.
No,
Well,
if I talk about the
laws
laws,
they don't happen just haphazardly. They follow the rules. Therefore, there is some laws over there. You didn't really account for how these laws came about.
and
did
you haven't accounted for the multiverse theory.
Oh, good.
Now,
We'll
if we're
talk
going
about
to talk
multiverse.
about multiverse theory, we're not just talking about.
A new rabbit in the hat, getting out, multiverse.
Well, you know, like I said,
You are-
we can't be dogmatic, and I'm not
You-
saying that I know everything, and I'm not saying that I'm an expert on this, but the laws in this universe are consistent with the. You know, that they helped our life, you know, our life exists because of the laws in this universe. But the multiverse theory says that there are infinite numbers of universes.
And there are infinite numbers of you, sometimes with blue socks and with 3 eyes.
No,
in
not
that
infinite
universe.
numbers of me.
Oh, it is. According to infinite theory, every second, almost infinite numbers of you is happening, creating different.
Oh, I've heard that too. That makes my head hurt.
Beautiful. Isn't it the fairies of all tales even more fairies than religious tales? And there is no shred of evidence for that. But because scientists in robes, they say that, we believe that, correct?
I don't believe it. I question it.
But you will
I-
say
I-
scientists
but
are
I-
more reliable than religious people.
Of
We can't be
course,
back.
they're not making it up.
Yes.
Scientists don't make this
At
stuff
least they
up.
speculate. They might be wrong, but at least in the past, the record shows they are more reliable than religious people.
Well, of
correct?
course, and they use reason and logic
Beautiful.
to
But still, it is
support.
very difficult to.
To propose the multiverse theory, it's above my
Yeah,
head.
okay,
the
okay,
multiverse
let's
theory
pass
is
it.
above
It's
my
not
head.
my
But it's a better explanation in my head
Okay.
than a God
Oh.
who itself
Okay.
doesn't have a creator.
Okay, I will talk about that. Oh,
You know, so when
you,
you're
you-
talking
oh,
about,
oh,
so you're just
you don't
taking
have
the
problem
argument-
about matter having no creator,
No, I don't have a problem with matter having no creator.
but you have problem with out of this box having creator, engineer out of this assembly line. You have problem with engineer out of the factory. You want engineer to be inside the factory. You don't believe if you see an automated assembly line, you say, well, everything must be here.
Your analogy is flawed.
Good.
We're not talking about a factory, we're talking about a universe. It's an open system. Okay, a factory is a closed system. You're talking about the universe, it's an open system.
But a moment ago, you were trying to get out of this universe to multi-universe, out of the box, in order to deny God. A moment ago, you came up with multi-universe, not
I
me.
did not do it in order to deny God. I
Well,
did it in order
it
to
was in-
explain some of the things that we know.
No, it was in-
okay?
we are discussing God.
If we're talking about God, if we're talking about saying, okay, I don't accept that all this matter in the universe came out of nothing. By the way, everything that we know about matter and energy says that it's permanent. Everything that we know says that it's permanent. Whether it comes in and out of dimensions or not, people are speculating that, but matter can't be created or destroyed. So that means it's eternal.
So far, we don't know. Until it is destroyed, then will be destroyed, we'll not know.
And then we change our theories.
Yes,
now, don't
correct.
We?
But
okay?
until
once,
so
once
far,
we get evidence,
yeah.
once we get evidence to the contrary, we change our theories. Otherwise, we're dogmatists. Okay.
Beautiful.
But what you're saying is, okay, I don't accept that matter and energy are eternal. I accept only that the matter and energy and the laws around them are created by a creator, and that that creator is eternal. So what I'm doing is calling you on your myth, not saying that I like it. Okay? What I'm saying is that if you say matter and energy can't be eternal, I don't like that. I like it much better that it was created by a creator. Then you're just shifting the question out one level.
I will give you examples why I believe, not I believe, I know there is a creator, intelligent creator, designer, and I will give you some examples. Hopefully we'll have little time to discuss that.
Okay.
But before that, I want to, have you read Dawkins' book? Okay. Dawkins, he's a smart guy.
He is.
But he's also, when comes some issues, he's absolutely, I see, dogmatic and prejudiced and blind.
Okay.
I give you one example out of several, but just one example, we don't have time. He says, well, evolution, random mutation could easily create things. Here it is. I made a program, I don't know whether you are familiar, a computer program, simple, that give a kind of random pixels, move around randomly, and then they come together randomly and create some complex pattern designs.
I think I know what you're talking about, yeah.
And then he says, well, if this can happen, why not that one? And this is so flawed argument. I expected much intelligent argument from this guy. And because he takes for granted the matter that he has, he takes for granted the time that he has, he takes granted space he has, he takes granted the pixels, the screen, the input, this medium keyboard. He takes granted his mind that puts simple, in quote, command that how to behave randomly. And all these things he takes, the energy he takes for granted, boom, things came just randomly. Goodness sake. Time,
well,
matter,
Dawkins is
energy.
a biologist.
Yes, but this example he gives it has no similarity between how lives come about. Absolutely ridiculous. He takes granted, he doesn't account any of those most important things, and then he says, well, it came about just randomly.
You're flawed.
Yes, go ahead.
Dawkins is an evolutionary biologist.
Yes.
He is not a cosmologist. He does not talk about how
they are not divorced from each other. They are integrated. You cannot say, well,
he's not a cosmologist.
I know, but this example, do you agree with this example? Does it make sense?
Yes, of course it does. When you're talking about starting with something that is not zero and working with something that is not zero and seeing how it evolves over time given certain circumstances, that's a good analogy. What you're saying is, well, I don't like that analogy because it assumes it starts from a non-zero point. And that's what your point. And that's what your problem is. Your problem is that evolutionary biologists don't start at the 0 point. Cosmologists start at the 0 point.
Another assumption that there is randomness. No randomness, my dear. Even in computer, there's no randomness. There is some deterministic things about this pixel moving. You cannot. We call it random if you don't know. We are not able to follow it. But it doesn't mean objectively on its own there is absolute randomness. Okay,
That's not a relevant point, though.
Okay.
The chain reactions still happen, whether they're random or predetermined. They still happen.
I want to come to Quran.
Okay.
Have you heard about it?
I've heard about it. Yeah.
Aha. And you have this Muhammad's picture.
He's there for a reason.
Okay, well, tell me the reason.
Okay, so as you know very well.
Where is the bomb?
Oh, the bomb fell off.
Okay.
The bomb fell off.
Okay, go ahead, tell me.
This was given to me by the roommate of a friend of mine who died.
Okay.
And it's here on stage for a very specific reason.
Go ahead. No, it was there. I brought here.
Well, it was there.
Okay.
It was there because of the reason that it's here.
See. Okay. Tell me.
Now, in the 1960s and 70s, there was an activist named Bill Baird.
Okay.
Bill Baird was a women's rights activist.
Okay.
He was famous for promoting birth control and promoting abortion rights. Mm-hmm. Very famous, very good guy. I've met him once. He's very inspiring to me. One time he got arrested. He got arrested many times. One time he got arrested, he was wearing a birth control device. Okay? At that time, it was illegal to show any birth control devices in any press. When he got arrested, a whole bunch of press took his picture and put his picture behind handcuffs being led away to prison with a tie tack, okay? Therefore, he forced all those newspapers, all those TV stations to break the law.
Okay.
This is what Muhammad is doing. Muhammad is here because there are demands for us to censor the image of Muhammad from some Muslim extremists. They, and the stations are doing it. The stations are doing it, and this is repugnant to me. This is not an anti-Islam statement, it's an anti-censorship statement. We put that on our stage because when we show this show, when we show the show that we tape on this stage on 50 cable stations, those cable stations, they break that,
Okay.
and they break it hard.
Okay, here is I have a problem. I don't have a problem with depicting Muhammad as a human being with the beard and stuff, no problem. But when you put bomb, it is a really political statement. It is, I see, a false propaganda because there is a big Western media depicting Muslims as terrorists, and the word terrorism, Muslim, is juxtaposed, repeated many times, and people start, okay, Islam means terrorism. But when we look at the facts on the ground, just like 10 years, 20 years, Western world Christianity killed many, many, many more people than Muslims killed. But if a gang terrorist kill few thousand people, but states kill few millions of people, and we don't call states terrorists, and they kill civilians, they destroy cities, just on the whim, newborn Christian crusader George Bush, they decided to invade Iraq, they fabricated lies, and they killed, according to Western medical account and doctor's account, 1 million people died, many injured, many orphaned, and still the United States or Christians are not called terrorists.
Correct.
Yeah, and therefore, if I say if Muslims are terrorists, which majority, I disagree with almost all Muslims. I am heretic in their eyes, I'm apostate, I should be killed. But there are few people who are really, we can call them terrorists or violent. Most of them peaceful, maybe ignorant people. Some of them very well educated, better educated than many Christians too. But if Muslims are terrorists, then Christians are 666 times terrorists, as I'm saying. Just I'm looking at sheer
Interesting
numbers.
choose.
Yeah,
Interesting.
100 Palestinians, and they get away in. And we don't hear Jewish terrorists.
That's correct.
So good.
That's
Therefore,
correct.
I wish you didn't have the bomb here because it is depiction. And Muhammad was a peacemaker, by the way. I will go that issue later. Muhammad, one of the most peacemaker guys. He was evicted. Listen, be honest about you may not like Muhammad, you may not like his message, but be honest regarding depicting this guy. This guy...
He raped a 9-year-old.
No, this is a big lie, stories made up.
He didn't rape a 9-year-old?
Okay, then he split the moon, half the moon, fell in Ali's backyard. This is in the same books. Or, this is in the same book. Then if you believe this story, you should believe that story. This is fabricated 200 years later. Listen, if a story made up by many people fighting about you and stuff, and contradictory story 200 years, I heard from this, and David said this. Do you think there won't be hearsay?
Are you saying he didn't have sex with Aisha?
Absolutely. Aisha's age was not 9. This is a big, and in the, for example, we have a book, Critical Thinkers for Islamic Reform. There is a scholarly article looking at those books that narrates Muhammad married 9 years old. It is a big blasphemy, insult to Muhammad. Muhammad was a role model person, but Muslims have resources made it 200 years after Muhammad. They made up stories, fabricated. Everyone competed with each other to narrate something about Muhammad.
Then how do you know what's true?
I know what's true because when I look at all the contradictions, therefore I don't trust it. Why I trust it? But I look at the Quran, Quran has different story. Now, What
didn't
I'm
answer
saying,
my question.
Okay.
Why do you trust what you trust if all of it is contradictory?
Beautiful, beautiful.
How do you justify?
Okay.
I believe this to be true.
Okay.
I don't believe this to be true because I don't like it.
No, I reject all those books. You're right, absolutely. I reject all those storybooks. In fact, Islamic reform movement all around the world now gaining great attention, especially educated people, university students. I have been in conferences. Recent conference was in Oxford University. It was less than a year ago. From all around the world, young people, leaders, and academicians came. We talk about these issues. We have, for example, Quran a reformist translation. This is also opening people's mind. We look at the Quran. Quran is fundamentally different than the teachings of Sunnis and Shiites, which is based on liturgy, 200, 300 years later fabricated. It is mishmash, it's full of contradictions. In one way, they idolize Muhammad next to God. It is kind of even in a story of Miraj, he goes up to the sixth heaven, seventh heaven, discusses, argues the number of prayers with God. He's more merciful than God, but he's stupid, cannot understand 50 prayers cannot be done in one day, 50 times of prayer. And then Moses reminds him, says, well, 50 times a day is too much. Go tell God, reduce it, make some discount. He goes up to the seventh heaven. Yeah, this is the longest story in Bukhari. Bukhari is by Sunnis.
But you're avoiding my question.
Yeah.
Okay, my question was, if you have a whole bunch of contradictions in the Bible, and you get a whole bunch of scholars in the, the Quran.
Hadith
Okay,
books,
you're
not
doing
Quran.
the same. You're doing the same thing that the Jews do, and you're doing the same thing that the Christians do, which is you're looking at what you like. You're looking at this book. You're picking and choosing what you like and what you don't like.
Okay, I need to clarify. You're right. I need to clarify. That means it was not clear. Now, Muhammad received the Quran. He's claimed. He says Quran. During his time, there was only Quran written. And for centuries, there was no other than the Quran. But later, 200 years later, there are many factions even killing each other. And then even they started fabricating hadith. They call it hadith, misnarration. I heard from my father from uncle, from grandma, and this and that, heard from Prophet Muhammad said this. For example, in Bukhari, you see advertisement for a certain brand name date, ajwa date. It is cure for everything. Or a hadith that put women in the level of animals. In front of the prayer, if a donkey, dog, and woman passes, your prayer is nullified. Or the most of the heaven is hell, is occupied by women. This kind of hadith. Or killing people or torturing people. Muhammad, in one way, is the most merciful person. Some hadith you see. In the same book, you see Muhammad is arresting some people, suspects who supposedly kill his shepherd.
Yep.
He chops their arms and legs and live in the desert, gouges their eyes with hot nails,
yes,
and then leave them thirsty, dying. And this is also hadith they believe. And Muslims, when they ignore the Quran, when they follow the Quran during the time of Prophet Muhammad, they became #1 in civilization, in sciences, leading sciences. This is not just coincidence. These were tribesmen, misogynistic slave owners, superstitious, polytheists, and all kind of negative things about this, fighting with each other. And with the message of Muhammad, these people, tribes, became hungry for knowledge. They translated all the Greek philosophy. They contributed to cosmology, to astronomy, to medicine. For example, Ibn Sina's book, Shifa, for 500 years it was in Western universities as the only textbook, #1 textbook. Or Ibn Haysam or Ibn Abul Iz, he was the automation guy, he made automation. And or algebra is basically invented by Muslims. Basically, they
invented by Muslims does not imply that Islam caused these inventions.
Islam, because the Quran, listen carefully. I'm not just a straw man Muslim that you can punch easily, okay? I'm not one of those that you can say, because the Quran is a very scientific book. The Quran repeatedly say, do not follow anything blindly. Let me just read you one verse. 36, chapter 17, verse 36. وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ. I know a little bit Arabic, let me show off.
Okay, go for it.
Do not follow anything blindly. وَلَا تَقْفُ مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ. That you don't have knowledge about it, do not follow. إِنَّ السَّمْعَ وَالْبَصَرَ وَالْفُؤَادَ كُلُّ إِلَيْكَ كَانَ عَنْهُ مَسْئُولًا. your eyes, your ears, and your mind is responsible whatever you're following. Throughout the Quran, reason is promoted. Bring your evidence. There are so many arguments in the Quran. Bring your evidence, bring your evidence. And here is our evidence. The Quran, perhaps, among all the religious books, it is a book that quotes opponents the most. 332 verses quote the disbelievers, the deniers of the Quran. Quotes how they criticize Muhammad or the Quran. Qalu, they said. And there are 332 qul, say, as a kind of response, exactly equal number of times. Therefore, it is a very scientific book. And I am claiming, and I am arguing that the information in the Quran about various sciences, about the creation of the universe, about embryology, about some physical issues, some sciences involving many aspects of sciences, not a single error you find. And for example, the information about Big Bang, this in chapter Rum, or Anbiya 21:30. In that verse says, don't, if you don't mind, let me read this verse for you.
No problem.
Yeah. And then I will go give some mathematical
So I want to get this straight here. So you discount every hadith.
Every hadith, absolutely.
Okay.
They are fabricated by ignorant people who are, according to the Quran, enemies of Muhammad. Interesting prophecy in the Quran. I say prophecy. The word hadith, wherever is mentioned, if it is other, hadith means words. If it is ascribed to the Quran, it's positive, beautiful hadith. But other than the Quran, it is very interestingly is rejected. It is false. For example, one verse says, فَبِأَيِّ حَدِيثٍ بَعْدَ اللَّهِ وَآيَاتِهِ يُؤْمِنُونَ. Which hadith, which word besides God's signs and besides God they will believe? Very interesting. There is prophecy. They picked a negative word to kind of follow as a partner with the Quran.
So these the millions and millions of Muslims in this in this world that look at the hadiths.
Yes, unfortunately.
Some of them more educated than you.
Yeah.
They're wrong.
Absolutely wrong.
But they would say that you're wrong.
I discuss with them in Turkish TV with top religious scholars. They cannot stand our argument. I have written manifesto for Islamic Reform exposing them. They all escaped. After you will go to Islamic Center here in New York, the biggest mosque on which is 96th Street.
I believe it is, yeah.
Yeah, I will have, and they don't know me. If they know that I will be interviewing them, they will be escaping because they always escape.
You keep using that word. You mean leave.
No, they don't want to confront me in public or discuss record. Therefore, I will be going into that like act of God, a tornado, hurricane, means we'll record that.
Okay.
But, therefore, it is very powerful argument we are making. It is theologically very powerful, very strong, that hadith is rejected by the Quran itself. They don't follow the Quran. Many contradictions. For example, the Quran, there's no stoning to death. Absolutely. And this fabricated later. They got from Jewish people. A lot of import from Jews and Christians and Buddhism entered through hadith. And they even fabricated a story about that. Let me tell you a story. It's funny.
Okay.
According to that story, there was a verse about stoning to death. It's not in the Quran. Let me read it. الشيخ والشيخة إذا زنيا فرجموهما البتة نكالا من الله. This is supposedly a verse in the Quran. And after Prophet Muhammad, it was written on leather under Aisha's bed. It was somehow protected. And then a hungry goat goes and eats this verse, which is written on leather, goat eaten leather. And then therefore it is abrogated from the Quran, but it is valid, its judgment is valid. This is a story believed by all Sunnis. It is in their most cherished 6 authentic hadith book. Imagine, you say those scholars, more knowledgeable than me?
They would say so.
It's not a matter of mind, it's a matter of reason. You could have a lot of garbage knowledge, stories you swallowed, you know all the stories, it doesn't mean you have knowledge if you don't have critical thinking, correct? Would you think a person who believed this story, that goat ate, let's say a book, let's assume this book is from God. Prophet died, and then after it is written on leather, and then God sends the goat, and goats eat it, and it is out of the book, the prophet is dead, and then they saw, though it was eaten by goat, is what?
Poop.
Is yes, and it is, but it is valid. It's not in the Quran. This is explanation why it is not in the Quran, but why they should apply. When it comes to religion, people become stupid. I am not a religious person. I cannot fit in any religious organization. I am like a bomb. I ask questions. In my philosophy classes, before the beginning, I ask questions to my students. Just before entering the class, sometimes I don't know which question I will ask. Just random question, but always question about critical thinking to warm them up. And one of the questions I remember, it is just, I didn't expect such an answer. It was about Pope. It was in 2007, I believe, that it was second anniversary or first anniversary of Pope Paul, who died. What was his name? Polish Pope.
John Paul II.
Yeah, the names Paul II, Paul V, and Henry the what is repeating the same names. Anyway, therefore it's confusing for me. And they in Poland they made a bonfire, huge bonfire, in celebration in honor of this. And then somehow there is a picture of one of these bonfires, and then you see a silhouette of a guy, contour.
I've seen the picture.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I projected on the smart board and showed them, and looks like hunchback old guy. And since our mind is primed, this is Pope, and it relates to, kind of looks like Pope. And I asked them, what do you think? This is about 30 students in my introduction to philosophy or philosophy of religion or metaphysics, one of these classes. Guess what? 70% of my students, these are college students. Some of them, in fact, were finishing University of Arizona, taking this class to just fill the requirement to graduate. Some of them were seniors in university. 70% of them says, well, this is really interesting, could be a miracle. And some of them says, this is a miracle. And then I said, guys, girls, what are you doing? This could be Photoshop, doctoring. Yeah. You didn't even ask a question that. And this could be, you didn't ask how long this fire flickered, how many different pictures it made.
Right.
The picture of the dog and camel
right.
and pig and Pope. You didn't question it.
Don't forget the Virgin Mary.
Yeah.
Virgin Mary's everywhere.
Yeah, even if it is just true, not Photoshop, it could be millions of pictures, maybe one of them is taken. And 3, you didn't even question. Maybe it tells that Pope is in hell.
Yes.
Good. Not reasoning. Therefore, religious people could be very educated, but since childhood they are brainwashed, they are just fed with stories, they are basically have tendency, whenever you have a holy word, frame it in holy name, then any stories goes. It opens up a hole, like a computer program, have a whole flaw in it, and then hackers can go through that. This is hacking the brain. The religious clergymen hack their brain and enter. Therefore, in the beginning of classes, I warn my students. I say, in this class, we don't have sacred cows. We slaughter them, we skin them, we chop them, and even we may barbecue and eat them. Therefore, if you are a religious person, if you have sacred cow, this class may be dangerous for you, and emotionally you may get hurt.
Yep.
Or if you are atheist, like you, if you have also kind of emotional ties to your atheism, we'll question that one equally. It is equal opportunity of question.
Good.
And therefore leave the class. But so far I haven't seen one student in first class leaving. Maybe sometimes they leave. I don't know how much is related to that warning. But in the class, I say I'm not the professor. Call me with my first name. I am one of you. You are the judge. You are the one, the philosopher. But we will communicate by reason, according to rules of logic, like 19 rules of inference. I don't know whether you are familiar with that. Anyway, I was going to read you the verse, 31:30. Did those who reject not see that the heavens and the earth were one mass and we tore them apart? That we made from the water everything that lives, will they not acknowledge? Another verse I have in chapter 4 as a footnote, endnote of 82, verse 82, I have the list of verses by scientific references of the Quran.
All right, read that phrase again.
Did those who reject, like you, not see that the heavens and earth, heavens in plural says the whole space, all the heavens, and the earth were one mass, were one point.
Doesn't say point, it says mass. It
Mass,
says one.
yes.
It
one.
says one.
Yeah.
Okay.
In السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا. They were unified, they were together. You can say that. And we tore them apart. ففتقناهما, we tore them apart. And there is another verse that says, you don't need to trust me, you can later change, but assume that there is such a verse. Assume there is another verse that says, وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ. We are expanding it, the universe. Another verse, we are going to fold, like folding the scroll back. It is a closed universe, which is, I think right now more scientists inclined to open universe model. But there are two models, one of them is one, none of them is proven.
And is that the first time that anybody has ever speculated that water was involved in life?
No, I'm not saying that. And I don't have evidence for that. But what I am saying...
You're saying it as if it was some sort of revelation.
No.
That Muhammad actually... Well, wait a minute here.
Yes.
Okay? If he's just repeating what was already known at the time, and I believe the fact that water was involved in the origin of life and water was required of life is pretty old, and I think it predates Islam. If you're saying that this is some sort of a justification that Muhammad had some sort of a divine knowledge, I think you better back that up.
Okay, hear me. Hear me. I'm not saying these particular verses shows the Quran is word of God. I'm saying this shows a little bit respect to this book. Because during time of Prophet Muhammad, people had all kinds of stupid ideas about how universe was created, about stories of the snake and things. In fact, hadith books, 200 years though, they are closer to us, they should have more. What I'm saying talks about cosmology, biology. In fact, some biology verses made like a Christian doctor, atheist doctor to become Muslim, like Maurice Bucaille, just because the correct, accurate description of stages of embryology, the way it is described, it just pulled his attention. It's incredible. In all this area, I'm challenging you, not a single error. If Muhammad was copying from here and there, how in the world, even they are not original ideas, let's say, even let's say in the past, one philosopher said similar things, but many others said different things. There were very diverse ideas. Somehow he managed to collect or repeat the accurate ones. That should be put question mark about this. Very interesting. At least this guy was so smart, he was able to distinguish the false one from the true ideas, because that time there was no evidence for those things. And I am saying modern, with our modern science, not a single verse contradicts. There is only one verse picked by atheists. They just jump over that. They say, here it is, contradict with science. When you look at it, it's taken out of context.
Oops.
Oh, atheism is falling.
Atheism is falling. See? This
Save
is
it.
Physics.
Save
Cause and effect.
A cause and effect.
Cause and effect.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now,
So let me challenge this, okay? Yeah. I've heard a lot of people talk about their holy books, and they take a very, very vague statement, and they say, look, I can fit this into what we know today.
Okay.
Did I not tell you that all the heavens were once one, does not say there was a big bang and an individual singularity.
Separated from each other.
Yeah, that's not what it says.
What it says it was one point, we separated from each other.
It doesn't say 1 point.
It is. Ratpan. Ratpan means
it says one.
Together. Yeah.
And it doesn't talk about the universe expanding. Well, it doesn't talk about...
It is. وَإِنَّا لَمُوسِعُونَ.
I mean,
anyway.